Two. I will start the recording.
So actually, I don't have any sheets or something like that. I didn't prepare anything. In fact, I never talked about Amiblitz 3. Never. It's the first time I'm talking about Amiblitz, and above that in a foreign language. It is it's not very easy for me. I hope you you understand what I'm trying to say within the next minutes. So maybe the first question to you: does anybody of you know Amiblitz or the former name Blitz Basic? Okay, at least one person, Gennaro, said yes. Many Italians here in this session, I see. Okay, what about Amiblitz 3? It all started with this one, Blitz Basic from Blitz Basic version 2.1 from 1995 from Asset Software. It was a well-known basic compiler. It was a very fast basic compiler. We had Blitz Basic and we had Amos, the creator, and the compiler extension. These two compilers were the most common, I think, in the Amiga world in the 90s. And I started with Amos and later Amos Professional and did some stuff with it. But it was and it is focused for games, for multimedia application and so on. And I always wanted to do workbench applications. No, not games, but applications. I did a database program and a simple text editor and all these things I did. And therefore, Blitz Basic was better suited because you could program in a OS-friendly way. But it was done for programming on an Amiga 500 without a hard drive, and therefore it is very minimalistic. The text editor is yes, you can insert chars and delete them, but that's it. It's not very comfortable, and it was not very comfortable. So later then I sold my Amiga. I also had an Amiga 4000. It was a really cool computer. I sold it for some bucks because I thought, oh, I have a PC, I have WinUAE, I have emulation. I don't need an original Amiga anymore, a classic Amiga. Okay, so that was a fold. And later on, I have to bought all these Amigas again, Amiga 500, Amiga 1200, and another Amiga 500, and so on. Okay, but in the meantime, I forgot all these things. I sold my Amiga. I did not do anything with Amiga several years ago. I started again with this emulation, with this new emulation possibilities, and I thought, what did I do several years ago with Amiga? I programmed with Blitz Basic. I remembered, and I tried to find it again, and then I thought, oh, the source code is available. And there was a guy called Bernd Rösch who started to improve the compiler, but Bernd did not had interest in optimizing the IDE, the text editor. He just added several things to the compiler, mainly FPU related stuff. So the system he developed needed an FPU, and that was a time when I started to join him, and we together developed Amiblitz. First Amiblitz 2, the FPU related stuff, the IDE, and later then Bernd went away, and I was the only maintainer of the product that did Amiblitz 3. So when we start Amiblitz 3, what do we have? I invested several hours, thousands of hundreds of hours to improve the text editor, and I tried to improve the functions, the possibilities of the IDE to get shit done or easier done. It's the same compiler as BlitzBasic 2 with several extensions. And what we have here is Amiblitz 3 in the current edition, and we have several windows. That's the first thing that you see. And my plans are to do a very powerful, modern IDE to program programs on the Amiga itself, not with Visual Studio Code and these extensions that are available. I want to code on the Amiga. And I want to have all these functions, these tools directly in the IDE. So one thing you might know or you should know is BlitzBasic is a very, very fast compiler. It is really fast. It's several times faster than C because it uses so-called blitzlib functions. So the compiler has several libraries that consist of all these commands, these functions, and these commands are coded in pure assembly language. So they are pre-compiled. And the only thing the compiler has to do is to link all the needed libraries together in an executable, and there's some code linking all this together. This is the reason because this compiler is so extremely insane fast, because 80% of the code is already compiled in assembly language. So you have these libraries with all these commands and all these functions to code with. That is the one thing you can use, or you can use some wrapper libraries to directly use OS functions if you want to. So you can code, you can generate code that does only use Amiga OS libraries, and you don't have to open and close all these libraries for yourself. Everything is done by the IDE if you want, or the compiler if you want. So many people that want to code with BlitzBasic or with Amiblitz, they don't know, like nowadays .NET developers, what are the functions, what are the commands I can use? So they don't know what are the possibilities of these blitzlibs. And the first thing I integrated is this so-called instruction browser. Oh, sorry. It's some kind of search engine. If I want to do something with a screen, I want to open a screen, I just enter screen, and the IDE gives me a list or a table of all available commands that are doing something with screen. All these commands are doing something with the screen. The commands with this underscore at the end of the name are OS functions. So get pub screen is a command from the Intuition library, or yeah, most of these screen commands are from the Intuition library. You see, what you can see here is the name of the library. Intuition library is a native OS library, and I can use this command just if I say add to code, then he will enter the code into the source code, and the command is the function is in there. So if I want to know what is the syntax of this command, what are the parameters I can use, I just press help, and I see here in this status area in this first line, okay, there's only the name of the function, and this is the only parameter. It's obviously a pointer to a screen, and we have again here it's located in the Intuition library. So that's a syntax called syntax help. I can, but I can do more. I can press Shift and Help, and it automatically opens the corresponding AutoDoc file from the SDK of Amiga OS, and give me a lot of information about how to use this function. Okay, so I have this source browser or this instruction browser. Oh, I think I closed it. Oh, there is this zoom line. I can't access. So it should work. So I can just open the instruction browser again. So this instruction browser is a nice add-on, a nice a tool to get familiar with all these commands that I want to use. Okay, another example is the obvious print. Okay, I see here all the print examples, all the print commands that are available in the system. As you can see, there are several print commands because we have several Blitz libs that contains commands to print. Not all prints are doing the same. Some prints only on screens, other print only on the console, and so on. So you can just search for a command. Another window we have is the library browser. With the library browser, you can get familiar with all the libraries that are integrated in the distribution. We have several libraries, I guess 180 libraries, and I just can, oh, there's something wrong with the screen, I guess. So I can browse through all these libraries, and on the right side, I see a list of all the commands that are available in this library. And you see there are lots of libraries included here. Another cool thing, another cool tool is a so-called definition browser here on the on the right side. I just open a short demo. So we have source codes, we have examples, and we have intuition examples or includes examples. So just open a simple program here. So, and I'm compiling it one time. So, I think it's, I have to quit it again. So what the program does is not so important. But if the program is compiled one time, the compiler and the IDE knows several information about the source code. So I can just only go over a constant, and the IDE show me the name of the constant and the current value of the constant in different annotation forms. Or I can go here into the definition browser, and I want to browse through some structures, internal structures. So I want to see, okay, what is the window structure from the system? Window. So I see here all the structures of the system that are defined, and we have a structure called window. And if I double click on it, I can see, okay, how is this structure defined? Okay, in Amiblitz, it's not called structures, it's called new type, but it's the same as in Pascal, that's called record, when I remember correctly. So what can I do with the definition browser? I can see how are these different structures defined. I can see here all these offsets, and I can browse it. So you see in the window structure, there's another pointer to a structure called requester. I can double click on it, and I can browse through this definition. I can search for constants. Maybe I want to design or program a window, open a window on the workbench, and I want to react on some messages, IDCMP messages, for example. So I just search for IDCMP underscore, and I see all the system constants that are defined on the in the Amiga OS, and I just can add it to code via clicking on add to code. So with all these helper windows in this IDE, I can search for commands, for functions. I can search, browse through the included libraries. I can search and browse through the structures that are defined from the OS, or the structures I defined for myself, just to get very fast the information I need. There's another possibility. I can browse through the code. I open, let's open the source code of the IDE itself. This is the source code of this IDE, and I have defined, as you can see here, several functions, and I want to see where is a function defined. I can use the so-called source browser, and I can just search for a definition, pad show, and I see, okay, these are the lines in the source code where I use this function, and I click there, and then he just sends me to that line. And when I say, okay, I don't want to see all the occurrences of this search string, then I can switch off all, and then he only shows me the definition, the function definitions. So just to see, okay, I want to see the definition of this function pad underscore draw blocks, and I click on it, and here's the definition of that file. What I can do above is maybe sorry, maybe I want to analyze the source code I've wrote consists of different functions and different commands, but which of these libraries I used are included if I want to compile my file, and I want to generate the executable of it. I just switch here to libraries and click on update, and he's searching for all the libraries that are needed, that are going to be linked into the executable, and I can just click on this plus symbol, and I can see, okay, from the library rows and string, I used all these functions. There's already a Amos lib with some little functions that were well known from the Amos system, max and min, for example. And these two functions are used four times in the whole source code. So if I want to get rid of a certain library because it is too huge, then I can see, okay, here I used this function. I can maybe replace it with another one to get rid of this function. So this is very little talk about the IDE and the possibilities of the IDE. There are a lot of more. I already forgot. Yesterday I tried to update the documentation of the Amiblitz system, and I wrote a little passage usage, or I wrote a little abstract about differences between the Blitz Basic 2 and the current Amiblitz 3, and I listed up all the differences from the compiler from the 90s and the actual compiler. Okay, that's what I wanted to say first. Maybe I can have another talk at later on. I can have maybe I can show some demos what you can do with Amiblitz, what programs you can do. Maybe I have a little example here. What's possible with this compiler? Source examples includes maybe this one. I don't know if it works right now. Huh? So this is just a simple 3D cube, not with Amos, but with it's done with Amiblitz. And let's see the program is done with 200 lines of code. So it's all done with all these included libraries, and you don't have to do most of these things for yourself. It's nearly all there. You have just to use it. So that's for it for today.
Okay, many thanks. Maybe time for questions then. I have a few, but maybe someone in the attendees have. If so, just unmute yourself and please ask your questions. I don't see anything in the chat.
Hey Sven, this is Micah. That's pretty amazing. So I have like 50,000 questions. One, was the original IDE written also? I mean, if I understand you, you're eating your own dog food. You wrote this IDE in Amiblitz, is that right?
I wrote this IDE in Blitz Basic itself, so it the IDE and the compiler is a mixture of assembly and Basic itself, and it compiles itself. So the original Blitz Basic was pure assembly language. And as the compiler has inline assembly possibility, it can compile the assembly code directly. And what I started to do was to convert the original assembly code back to BASIC. So most of the things you see, all these windows I've done are written in BASIC. So, and it's a horrible mixture of BASIC and assembly code. I don't want to show it. So, and my goal is to completely transform the source code from assembly to BASIC. And when I started to do this, I had no idea about assembly language. The only command, the only function I knew was move. And for me, it was a possibility to learn about the assembly language, and I had first to understand this section of code to transform it to a BASIC to BASIC. Okay.
Yeah, well, amazing. But next one, you said that it's faster than a lot of C programs because it has all these native code chunks that are written in assembly. Is it also make it smaller? I mean, the compiled code and the running memory, or?
I didn't do any tests, or maybe yes, because these I can show you a source code of one of these Blitz libs that are containing these commands. Let's see the 2D lib. So what you see here is okay, let's a circle. Draw a circle. It's this assembly code. So in this case, it's using the OS functions itself. You see this on this jump. But this is a handwritten assembly code. And all these Blitz libs are handwritten assembly code. So I guess it is shorter, because the C compiler has to do a lot more.
Yeah, probably. Very cool.
I see a question in the chat from Gennaro. So I think the question is if this is the same version of the Blitz Basic on the PC. Maybe if that's not exactly what you meant, Gennaro, then you can unmute yourself.
No. It's not the same. The programmers of the Blitz Basic edition from the Amiga, they left the Amiga and wrote Blitz Basic again for the PC. And they said, hey, you can do with this Blitz Basic executable on the Amiga, you can do what you want. You can disassemble it, and that's where we started. We disassembled the original code and began to improve it. So, oh, what I forgot is the IDE is highly configure. How do you say? I can configure a lot of things. That was the first thing I did. I did these preferences or the configuration dialog. You can set the screen mode. You can see all of these colors. You can set colors for functions, for strings, for constants, just to make it more readable. And it has a lot of more functions. I don't have the time today to talk about all these functions.
Maybe a question from my end, and you have so currently that is the version 3, or is it
3.9.9? Yeah.
Okay, very close to the 4 then.
Yeah. It's very close. Yeah.
And what was the fundamental change then from 2 to 3, and what do you expect as a fundamental change from 3 to 4?
Okay, the fundamental difference.
Yes.
From Amiblitz 2 to Amiblitz 3 was Amiblitz 2 had this FPU, was FPU related. So the IDE itself needed an FPU, and the compiled files also needed an FPU. That was a huge thing to remove all these FPU commands and replace them with normal CPU commands. But it's done and works. It works really good. You don't have to need an FPU anymore.
So I see a question again in the chat about the stable version. I guess that one is available, the stable version, from the link that you have provided.
Yes, this one, yeah,
website,
yeah.
Right?
It's very stable. There are some bugs left, but not many. I'm working with this all the time, and I know about some projects that has been done with Amiblitz with the current edition. Some games that from this year. There was a game contest several months ago, and there are several games that were done with this IDE.
Okay.
It's stable enough.
Yeah, okay. And the link, I see it's on GitHub, so I guess it's open source as well.
Yeah, installation is very easy. Just decompress the archive, copy it where you want, and start it. It should work. Out of the box, so-called.
But is that then open source or really, or?
Yes, it's open source.
Yes, it's open source. Okay.
It's open source, yeah.
Thank you. And then I see we have there's another question. Did it work on a disk on Amiga, or do I need an installation on the hard drive? Maybe that joins as well one of the questions I noted. That is, if you have a list of requirements, maybe that's on the link as well. I didn't check.
Yeah, it's on the link, and it's in the guide. I already opened. Here's where's the requirements page here. These are the requirements. If you want to program on an Amiga without a hard drive, please use Blitz Basic from the 90s. Yeah. You need about 12 megabytes of space. Most of the space is the documentation, all these autodocs, all these guides. Every Blitz lab has its own guide. So when I click the help button for the window command, it opens the guide file. So there are dozens of guide files describing all these programs, these commands.
Okay. You don't plan by any chance to have a kind of light version, and then it would take the documentation or the libraries when needed from online or something like that? Or maybe that's a suggestion for the future.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I never thought about it. My first goal is to get rid of all this assembly code to make it more to make it more easy to implement new functions. And the problem is the more basic code there is, the bigger the file size, the executable will be.
Okay. I see another question from Mark. From a new user perspective, how long will it take to get to this level? So I don't know what this level means, but I get to maybe to learn it, or a new users. Is it easy to get to grasp? Or?
Yeah, this is really hard to answer this question. Maybe to get familiar with the IDE and the basic language, maybe 2 months.
Yeah. Okay, I don't see new questions here. Anybody new questions? Otherwise, if not, thanks a lot, Sven. I will stop the recording now.
You're welcome.
Stop the recording.